Welcome to Preeminent Test Prep. Today is day 53 in our 90-day SAT Prep series. Today I'll be doing a walkthrough of the Math with Calculator section of SAT Practice Test 5. I scored perfectly on the Math section of the SAT on back-to-back SATs, and today I'll be really taking you through and showing you that pacing that I outlined yesterday. So if you didn't see yesterday's video, that was day 52. Yesterday I went through how I would recommend pacing the Math with Calculator section. So today that's what I'm going to be showing you. I'll be doing a walkthrough of how I would pace the Math with Calculator section if I were taking it. In this case, it'll be SAT Practice Test 5's Math with Calculator section. So keep in mind that I'll be going through that same pacing that I outlined yesterday, but this time you'll be seeing me do it on an actual practice test rather than just me outlining how I would do it and why I would do it. So you'll really be able to see me give you insights into things. The other thing that you should pay attention to is how I'm solving these questions. So keep in mind things that I do that save me time, because that's part of how I get through these sections very, very quickly and then have time to go back and check my work, check my bubble sheet and all of that, as I find the most efficient way to get to these answer choices. So pay attention to that as well. There won't be any other reading or writing today because this is going to take 55 minutes at least. So with that, I'm going to get a stopwatch going on my phone here, so just let me do that. That way I can know how much time I've got and make sure that it's exactly 55 minutes. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start that right now, and now let's go ahead and get started. So I just started my stopwatch. Now let's go ahead and get started with our test. So I'm going to be doing this just like if I were really taking it, so keep in mind that the answer explanations won't be very long because of that. So we have, according to the line above, between which two consecutive years was there the greatest change in the number of 3D movies released? Okay, well I'm looking for the greatest change in my Y, which is number of 3D movies released. I see that that occurs from 2010 to 2011, so my answer for number 1 is going to be D. All right, question 2. Some values of the linear function f are shown in the table above. What defines f? Okay, well I see I go from 1 to 3, so I run by 2. I see that I rise from 5 to 13, which is positive 8. So my slope then is going to be 4. My only option with a slope of 4 is option C, so my answer for number 2 is going to be C. Okay, question 3. To make a bakery's signature chocolate muffins, a baker needs 2.5 ounces for each muffin. How many pounds of chocolate are needed to make 48 signature chocolate muffins? Anytime something is underlined on the SAT math section, pay close attention to it. In this case, I'm asked for my answer in pounds, not ounces. So I have 2.5 ounces of chocolate per muffin, per one muffin. Now I want to make, it says 48 muffins, so I'm going to have to multiply by 48 muffins to cancel my muffins. Okay, so multiply by 48 muffins, which I'm just going to call M. Okay, I see my muffins will cancel, so I'll have 2.5 times 48 to give me my number of ounces. I'll plug that in my calculator real quick. 2.5 times 48, that's going to be 120 ounces, but that is not my answer because I'm asked for the number of pounds. So I have 120 ounces. At that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 1 pound per 16 ounces because that is my what it tells me per how many ounces are in a pound. It says that there's 1 pound per 16 ounces. I see that my ounces are going to cancel there, so I'll have 120 divided by 16, and that'll give me my answer in pounds. So I plug that into my calculator, and that's going to give me 7.5. So I will have 7.5 pounds. See, ounces will cancel. I'm left with my answer in pounds. So my answer there is going to be A for number 3. All right, number 4. Let's go down and find that. We've got number 4. If 3 times the quantity C plus D equals 5, what's the value of C plus D? I just divide each side by 3 then, and we see that that's going to be 5 over 3, which is answer choice B for number 4. Okay, now we got number 5. We've got the weight of an object on Venus is approximately 9/10 its weight on Earth. The weight of an object on Jupiter is approximately 23 over 10 of its weight on Earth. If an object weighs 100 pounds on Earth, approximately how many more pounds does it weigh on Jupiter than on Venus? Okay, well I see that on Venus, it's going to weigh 9/10 of its weight on Earth, and on Jupiter it's going to weigh 23 over 10 of its weight on Earth. So therefore I can do that 23 minus 9, so 23 tenths minus 9 tenths. I see that's going to leave me with 14 tenths, so that's the difference between the two. I multiply that then by that 100 pounds, and that's going to give me 140 pounds, so my answer there is going to have to be C for number, what number is that? Number 5. Okay, so 5 will be C. Now we can go and move on to number 6. An online bookstore sells novels and magazines. Each novel sells for $4 and each magazine sells for $1. If Sadie purchased a total of 11 novels and magazines, so we know the number of novels plus the number of magazines she got equals 11, that have a combined selling price of $20, how many novels did she purchase? Well, it's $4 per novel plus $1 per magazine. So we have this inequality right here. we see that we can go ahead and set something up and plug in. We're asked to solve for the number of novels. So for solving for novels, we need to plug in something for m. We subtract 4n from each side. Subtract 4n from each side. We see that m equals 20 minus 4m. So we're going to have n plus 20 minus 4n equals 11. That's going to give us negative 3n plus 20, so negative 3n, right? And we'll just go ahead and subtract 20 from each side. That's going to equal negative 9. Divide each side by negative 3. That's going to give us 3. Okay, so our answer there is going to be 3 for the number of novels, which means that answer, the answer to number 6 is going to be B. All right, question 7. The Downtown Business Administration in a certain city plans to increase its membership by a total of N businesses per year. There were B businesses in the DBA at the beginning of the year. Which of the following best models the total number of businesses Y the DBA plans to have as members X years from now? All right, well, the first thing I see is that we already have some businesses, so I need to have a plus B. I see the only option with plus B is A, so my answer is going to have to be A. So the other thing I see is that it's linear, right? It's increasing its membership by a total of N businesses per year. So it's a constant increase. So that's going to be linear. So I can get rid of C and D because they're exponential. Only option with current businesses then that is linear as well is option A. So the important thing to understand here is that it's linear growth with a y-intercept. Answer is going to have to be A for number 7. All right, now we got question 8. So let's go ahead and get to question 8. Which of the following is an equivalent form of 1.5x minus 2.4? All that quantity squared. We got this right here. Okay, first thing I see immediately is I'm going to look for a difference between A, B, C, and D. I see my differences in my last digit here, so I'm just going to go ahead and solve for that. So I've got negative 2.4 times negative 2.4. That's going to give me 2.4 squared, so I'll plug that in my calculator. 2.4 squared. Next thing I've got is I've got minus negative 6.4. That's a plus 6.4, so I add 6.4 to that, and that's going to give me positive 12.6. Okay, I plugged that all in my calculator. Keep in mind I just did 2.4 squared, and then I got a negative times a negative. That's going to be plus 6.4. That gave me that positive 12.16 on my calculator. So my answer for 8 then is going to have to be answer choice C. All right, number 9. In 1908 Olympic Games, Olympic marathon was lengthened from 40 kilometers to 42 kilometers. Of the following, what's closest to the increase in the distance of Olympic marathon in miles? Okay, it increased by 2 kilometers. So I've got 2 kilometers times 1 mile per 1.6 kilometers. Per 1.6 kilometers. I want my kilometers to cancel, so they're going to cancel here. So I'm going to have 2 over 1.6. I plug that into my calculator, and that's going to give me 1.25, so my answer there is going to have to be B. Okay, so number 9, answer there is B. Now we can go move on to number 10. All right, the density D of an object is found by dividing the mass by the volume, which the following gives M in terms of D and V. Okay, well I know that my density equals M over V. I got to solve for M, multiply each side by V. And I see that M equals D times V, which is answer choice A for number 10. So that one right there, pretty simple. Now we got question 11. In the xy plane, the graph of which of the following is perpendicular to the graph of the equation above. Perpendicular means we have the opposite reciprocal slope. I see my slope in this case. I'm going to add 2x to each side, get rid of that, plus 2x, divide by 3 to get rid of that. Okay, so my slope is going to be 2/3 x. If I want to flip that, I got to flip my sign. So it was positive 2/3. Now it's going to be negative 3 over 2. I flip my sign, flip this up, flip that. All right, 2, flip it down. So my answer then's got to be a negative 3 over 2. Find my answer with negative 3 over 2. I see I can subtract 3x here. That's going to give me negative 3x. Divide by 2. So my answer there is going to have to be A. Okay, so 11, answer there is A. Now I've got number 12. System of equations above has a solution xy. What's the value of x? Okay, well I already know that I can double this right here. Or actually I don't have to double anything. I see I have half y equals 4. I just plug in 4 then for this half y, so I have x minus 4 then. So x minus 4 equals 2. That means that I got to add 4 to each side, add 4 to each side. I see x is going to equal 6. So the value of x then is going to be 6, which is answer choice D for number 12. Okay, next I've got 13, which of the following ordered pairs xy satisfies the system of inequalities above. Okay, so right here, I see that x minus y has to be greater than 1. If x minus y has to be greater than 1, then x has to be greater than y. So x has to be greater than y. I see that in A, x is less than y, so that's wrong because x has to be greater than y. I see in B, I see that y is greater than x, so that's wrong. C, y is greater than x, so that's wrong. Option D, x is greater than y, so therefore that's my only possible correct answer. So D is going to be my answer for 13. All right, now I got question 14. I've got a type of surgeon, I've got general, orthopedic, total, I've got a graph there. Sometimes when I have a table here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop down here and find what I'm asked, because usually it's a probability. So which of the following is closest to the probability that the selected surgeon is an orthopedic surgeon whose indicated professional activity is research. So I've got orthopedic surgeon, research, probability that the selected surgeon, okay, so I just got to check and make sure we're selecting it randomly. So I have in a survey 607 general surgeons and orthopedic surgeons indicated their major professional activity. The results are summarized in the table above. If one of the surgeons is selected at random, what's the probability that the selected surgeon is an orthopedic surgeon whose indicated professional activity is research? Okay, since we're selecting it at random, that's going to be 74 out of 607. I'm going to plug that in my calculator. Yeah, 74 out of 607. And that's going to give me 0.122. 0.122. So my answer for 14 there is going to be A. Okay, now I've got question 15. All right, so I've got 3 statements here. I probably asked for which ones must be true. I see I am. So I have a polling agency recently surveyed 1,000 adults who were selected at random from a large city and asked each of the adults, are you satisfied with the quality of air in the city? Of those surveyed, 78% said they responded that they were satisfied with the quality of air in the city. Based on the survey, what must be true? Option 1, of all the adults in the city, 78% are satisfied with the quality of air in the city. No. Okay, this is a sample size of only 1,000. It didn't include all the adults in the city, so therefore we can't make that conclusion. Number 2, because keep in mind it says must be true. Okay, number 1 could be true, but it doesn't have to be true. So that's why that's wrong. Number 2, if another 1,000 adults were selected at random from the city, 78% would report they're satisfied with the quality of air. Once again, that could be true, but it doesn't have to be true. The key word in this is must be true. Okay, next, if 1,000 adults were selected at random from a different city were surveyed, 78% of them would report they are satisfied with the quality of air in the city. No, because this is a different city. So once again, that would be incorrect as well. So our answer there is going to be A for number 15. None of those must be true. Questions 16 through 18, they're referring to a table up here. So one of the following methods of calculating the approximate age in years of a tree of a particular species is to multiply the diameter of a tree in inches by a constant called the growth factor for that species. The table above gives the growth factor for 8 species of trees. According to the information in the table, what is the approximate age of an American elm tree with a diameter of 12 inches? Well, we know that the age is equal to the diameter multiplied by the growth constant, or growth factor for that species. So if we have a diameter of 12 and we have an American elm tree, we can calculate its age by multiplying by this American elm growth factor. So that's going to be 4 times our diameter of 12. 4 times 12 is going to give me 48, so my answer there is going to be D for number 16. All right, now we got question 17. So let's go down here. Okay, I've got a graph, tree diameter versus age. I see my line of best fit is going to be something like that. The scatter plot above gives the tree diameter plotted against 26 trees for a single species. The growth factor of the species is closest to that of which of the following species of tree. Well, to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my age and I'm going to divide it by my tree diameter, right? So I put my line of best fit in. I see at 70, it's going to be right around, let's say it's going to be right around 10, right? 10.2. So I'll do 10.2 over 7, which basically I could just do 10.7 because I can't imagine that they care too much about it being that close. Or I'm sorry, 70 divided by 10. So 70 divided by 10, right, that's going to give me 7. So I just go find which species is closest to 7. I don't think there were many that were. There's only really one that's close to that. I see that that's shag, bark, hickory, so my answer there is going to be shag, bark, hickory. Go down, find that answer. I see that that's going to be D, so answer for 17 then must be D. Now keep in mind that if there were more of those that were closer to 7.5, then I would have had to really use that exact, more exact answer. So I would have gone something like 100. Over here, seeing that it was 14, I would have done something like that. But in this case, there was nothing close to that 7.5. All right, 18. If a white birch tree and a pen oak tree have a diameter of 1 foot right now, which of the following will be closest to their difference in diameters 10 years from now? All right, well, we know that their age then, their difference is going to be 10. So we're going to have 10 times their diameter, right? Diameter D times their, or I'm sorry, 10 is going to equal, since it's 10 is their difference in age, right? That's going to have to equal their change in diameter times their growth factor. So change in diameter times growth factor for both of them is going to have to be 10. So let's go ahead and take a look at what their growth factors are. We can calculate their changes in diameter. So we had a pin oak was 1. We see a pin oak is 3. So we got, we'll call this one PO for pin oak. We're going to have 10 times change in diameter. We're going to have to divide each side by 3 then. So we get 10/3 will be its change in diameter. The other one was a white birch tree, so we'll call that one WBT for a white birch tree. We see that that's going to have to be 10 over whatever its growth factor is. It's going to equal its change in diameter. Let's take a look at what its growth factor is real quick. White birch tree, we see that that's 5. So we're going to have 10 over 5, which we know is going to be 2. So we know that's going to be 2. So the difference between them then is going to be 10/3 minus 2. We can rewrite 2 as 6 over 3. And we see that we're going to be left with 4/3 for our change in diameter. We know 4/3 is 1.3 repeating, so our answer there is going to be C. So 18, answer there is going to be C. All right, number 19. Okay, I've got a geometry problem. I have a triangle. What's the length of AD? Well, hang on a minute. So I just crossed through 18, right? And on my pacing guide that I talked about yesterday, I talked about how once we get through 1 through 18, that's our first step. Okay, then I talked about how for questions 19 through 22, then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at those questions, and if they look easy to solve, we're going to go ahead and solve them. Now, if any of them at any point look more difficult to solve or look like they're going to take a long time, then at that point what we do is we would skip and we would go to lines or questions 31 to 35. So in this case, I see 19. I see it's a simple triangle and geometry problem, so I'm going to go ahead and solve it. In triangle ABC, what's the length of A to D? Well, I see I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, a 30, 60, 90 triangle means that I'm going to have an x here, right? I'll have an x cubed root 3 there, or an x square root 3, and then I'll have 2x here. So in this case, I'm asked to solve for AD, which I know is going to be the same length as DC. I see that if I take that 12 divided by 2, I'm going to get 6 as my answer for DC, and 6 will also be the length of AD then. So the answer there is going to be B for number 19. Okay, 20 also looks fairly easy to solve. Anytime I see I have a dot on a wheel like this, I know I'm probably looking at a pretty simple graph interpretation problem. So the figure on the left above shows a wheel with a mark on its rim. The wheel is rolling down the ground at a constant rate along a level straight path from starting point to end point. The graph y equals d of t on the right could represent which of the following as a function of time from when the wheel began rolling. Option A, the speed at which the wheel is rolling. No, because we know that that's constant, so it would just be something like that, a straight line across. So A is wrong. B, the distance of the wheel from its starting point. No, because that would just be like this, because it's a constant speed, so it would just be increasing. C, the distance of the mark on the rim from the center of the wheel. That's also constant, because that's just the radius. Okay, radius will always be constant, so our answer is going to have to be D, which is the distance of the mark on the rim from the ground. Okay, that's going to change as that mark rotates as this wheel spins, right? As it goes around, that height from the ground will change. So answer there is going to be D for number 20. All right, number 21. Let's go take a look at that. Okay, 21. All right, so we've got an equation above. We're asked for what must be true. Keep in mind, keyword here is must. Now this one also looks easy. It's a short problem, doesn't look too difficult. So I'm going to answer it as well. If A is negative, okay, so we can call A a negative number, B is positive, what must be true? Okay, well, we can put a negative sign here, right? We'll just get rid of this A. We know it's got to be a negative. We know this has to be a negative. We know B's got to be positive. Well, a negative minus a negative is going to be, or I'm sorry, a negative minus a positive is just going to get us more negative, so we're going to have an even more negative answer. And then that's all going to be over a negative number. Okay, so we see that that's going to have to be positive. Okay, so what option says something that has to be positive? We can't say for sure C is going to have to equal 1. We can't say it has to equal 1 because we don't know what A, B, what those are as far as what their constants are. But we can say it's going to have to be something positive. So our answer there is going to have to be answer choice A. As far as C, that shows a negative. D also shows a negative. So those are both wrong. So our answer for 21 there is going to be A. All right, 22. In state X, okay, now keep in mind this is the last one that we would answer. In this case, this one actually looks fairly substantially long. So because it looks so long, at this point, I'm actually going to go ahead and switch over to 31 through 35, just as I recommend you do. Okay, 31 through 35, we're going to go ahead and quick solve these, then we'll take a look at 36 to 38, see how they look. So we have horsepower and watts are units of power. They are directly proportional such that 5 horsepower is equal to 370 watts. So we got 5 horsepower, we'll call 5 HP, over 3730 W for watts. That's got to equal the power in watts of 2 horsepower. Okay, in this case, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flip my ratio because I want to solve for watts and I want that to be up top. Okay, so I'll go 3730 watts up here. Okay, so I want to solve for my number of watts, which I'll call XW for X amount of watts per 2 horsepower. So in this case, I got to multiply each side by 2 in order to solve for my number of watts. When I do that, I'll have a 2 times 3730 over 50, or I'm sorry, over 5. So I'm just going to plug that in my calculator real quick. So we have 2 times 3730 all divided by 5. Okay, I do that and I get 1492. So number 1 there, or 31, it's going to be 1492 will be my answer there. Okay. All right, so at that point we can go ahead and move on to question 32. So we got The Painting Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh is a rectangular in shape. It's got a height of 29, a width of 36.25. Reproduction was made. Each dimension is a third of its corresponding original dimension. What's the height of the reproduction in inches? Okay, well the height was 29. we just take that 29 then, we multiply that by 1/3, 29 times 1/3, that's going to give us 29 over 3. Okay, so our answer there is going to be 29 over 3. So that one right there, pretty simple. As you can see, kind of got a bit of a drop down in difficulty from those multiple choice ones, especially what 22 was looking like. All right, now we've got on PS, so that's going to be this whole line segment here. We know PQ equals RS, so therefore that x minus 1 has got to equal our 3x minus 7. We're asked for the length of PS. In that case, we're going to have to solve for x. To do so, what we're going to do is we're going to try and keep x positive by subtracting x from each side here. That's going to give us 2x there. At that point, we're going to add 7 to each side. Add 7. Negative 1 plus 7 gives us 6. Dividing each side by 2 is going to give us 6 over 2, which is 3 for x. We know we're going to have a 3 here then. Then we're going to have 3 times 3, which is going to give us 9. 9 minus 7, that's going to give us 2. Okay, we put a 3 in over here. We know it has to be 2 anyways because we know that PQ is the same as RS. So at that point, we just add them. So 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. So my answer there is going to be 7. So 33, answer there is 7. Once again, not too difficult. 34, in the xy plane, 0.25 lies in the graph of the function f. If f of x equals k minus x squared, where k is a constant, then what is the value of k? Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to plug in our points. So we have a 2 for our x, so we're going to have minus 2 squared, and we have a 5 for f of x. So we'll put a 5 there, okay? So 2 squared is 4, so we have minus 4. So we're simply going to add 4 to each side. 5 plus 4 is going to give me 9, so I'll have 9 is equal to k. Okay, so my answer for 34 there will be 9. All right, so if you can't see what I did there, I'll just quickly rewrite it. We had a 5 for whatever f of 2 is going to equal, so that's going to equal k minus 2 squared since it was x squared up here. Okay, 2 squared is 4, so I added 4 to each side to cancel that. 5 plus 4 was 9, so k was 9. All right, so 34, answer there is going to be 9. 35. A landscaper is designing a rectangular garden. The length of the garden is to be 5 feet longer than the width. So we got our width then and our length. We're told the length is going to be 5 feet longer than our width, so 5 plus w. And then we have, if the area of the garden will be 104 square feet, what will be the length in feet? So we want to solve for our length. We know that our area is length times width in a rectangle or in a square. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do our length times our width. Now, we want to solve for our length. So if we're solving for our length, we know that our width is equal to our length minus 5. Our length minus 5. So then what we can go ahead and do then is we can go ahead and put in that we have our length times our width. We know our width is our length minus 5. So we'll have L times L minus 5. So at this point now we just go ahead and distribute our L over. So we're going to have L squared minus 5L equals 104. Okay. Or hang on a minute. We're going to have L times, okay, yep, that's right. Okay, so at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and subtract 104 from each side, set it equal to 0, subtract 104. Now it's set equal to 0, set equal to 0. Okay, at this point, we're just going to go ahead and solve for whatever L is. So we can look to factor. We can go ahead and do that real quick. So that's going to be factors of 104 that have a difference of 5, or factors of negative 104. What jumps off the bat to me? Not much is really jumping off the bat. I would say 8 times 10 is 80, and then plus 24, so I would say 13 and 8. 13 and 8 are going to be my two different ones there. So I'll have an L minus a 13 times an L plus 8 is what it looks like to me. I'll quick check that in my calculator by doing 13 times 8, see what that equals. 13 times 8, I see that that gives me 104, so that will be my factorization there. So as far as what the length will be, we know our length has to be positive, therefore it's going to have to be 13. So my answer for 35 is going to have to be 13. Alright, so that one's not too tough. So now at this point in my pacing guide, what I told you is to take a look at 36, see if it looks easy. In this case, simple geometry problem, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and solve it. Okay, I see I can have a radius going here as well. So when I do that, now I see I've got a triangle where I've got two sides that are the same, because these are both radii, or radiuses, right? So if I have a 20 there, now I have an isosceles triangle, which means I have to have a 20 here. I have to have a 20 here as well, because those are isosceles triangles, which means that their base angles got to be the same. At that point, I add 20 to 20 and subtract it from 180 to solve for my angle right here, right? So when I do that, or hang on a minute, let me just think about this real quick. So if you got an x there, right, we can go ahead and set up some line going across. We're going to have this right here. So to solve for x then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 180 minus that 40. That's going to leave me with 140. So that right there will be 140. Okay, and if that right there is 140, then that x to complete this line here, it'll have to have a 40 here. So x then, since it covers all of this, right, and there has to be a 40 here as well, since this is also 140, x then will have to be 80, because it'll have to add those two 40s together to make that x. So x there will have to be 80. Another way you could think about that is 140 plus 140 is 280, and then do 360 minus 280. You know then that's going to equal 80. So another way you could do it is that way. So either way, answer there is going to have to be 80. Okay. At this point, we go ahead and check 37, just like I talked about in the pacing video yesterday. In this case, it's a pair of questions. It doesn't look too difficult. We just have distance and driving speed, so probably just dealing with distance and time and velocity and things like that, so not too tough. Miss Simon drives her car from home from her workplace every workday morning. The table above shows the distance in miles and her average driving speed in miles per hour when there's no traffic for each segment of her drive. One morning, Miss Simon drove directly from her home to her workplace in 24 minutes. What was her average speed in miles per hour during her drive that morning? Okay, well, we need to take the number of miles that she drove divided by the number of hours. Now we're told 24 minutes, so we need to convert that to hours. We know converting 24 minutes to hours would be 24 minutes per 60 minutes in an hour, so that's going to be 24 over 60. Okay, now the number of miles that she drove, we're just going to sum the distances here. So 0.6 plus 15.4 will give me 16. 16 plus 1.4 will give me 17.4. So my answer then is going to be 17.4 over that 24 over 60. I plug that in my calculator real quick. Got 17.4 divided by the quantity 24 over 60. Make sure you use those parentheses because you need to. When you do that, what you're going to end with there is going to be 43.5. And so our answer there is going to be 43.5. Now, one thing you need to watch out for anytime you have a decimal on a free response is making sure it's not asking you to round, because sometimes it'll ask you to round to the nearest mile per hour or something like that. In this case, it does not. So the correct answer there is going to be 43.5. All right, question 38. If Miss Simon starts her drive at 6:30 a.m., she can drive at her average driving speed with no traffic delay for each segment of her drive. She starts at 7 a.m. The travel time from the freeway entrance to the freeway exit increases by 33% due to the slower traffic. Okay, keep in mind that that's from right here. Okay, an increase of 33% in that travel time. But the travel time for each of the other segments doesn't change. Based on this table, how many more minutes, keep in mind it's minutes, not hours, does Miss Simon take to arrive at her workplace if she starts at 7 than if she starts at 6:30? Okay, well, the only difference is that this duration of time is 1.33 times as long. Okay, so we're just going to have to find that duration of time. We know that that's 15.4 miles, and we know that it's 50 miles per hour. Okay, so let's go ahead and use a canceling of units to get our correct answer there. So we have 15.4 miles. We want to cancel out our miles to get to our number of minutes or our number of hours. So if we were to multiply by miles per hour, our miles wouldn't cancel. So what we're going to have to do is divide by our miles per hour. So that's going to be multiplying by 1 over 50 miles per hour. At that point, our miles cancel. Okay, so we're going to have 15.4 over 50, 15.4 over 50. When we do that, we get 0.308 hours. So 0.308, that's H for hours. We have to convert that to minutes. Okay, so we're going to convert that to minutes by multiplying by 60 minutes per hour. 60 minutes per hour. Plug that in the calculator. That's going to give us 18.48. Is that our answer? No, it is not, because we have to multiply that by that 1.33 for that 30% increase due to that slower traffic. So we have to multiply that then by 1.33 to get our final answer in minutes, and that will be actually, that will not be our final answer because we're asked for how many more minutes Miss Simon's driving. Okay, so we have to take that then, and we actually should have only multiplied by 0.33. Okay, so multiplying by 0.33 there to get how many more minutes she's driving. So we take that 18.48, we multiply it by 0.33, and that's going to give us 6.09. Keep in mind here that we're asked to round to the nearest minute. Okay, so I talked about that earlier, making sure we're rounding to what we're supposed to round to. In this case, that's the nearest minute, so that's going to be 6 minutes. Okay, so big things to watch out for there is we're asked for how many more minutes she's driving, and then rounding to that nearest minute. So the answer there is going to have to be 6. All right, at this point, we can go ahead and go back to where we left off at 22, and then we just finish up the multiple choice section there. So hopefully you understand why I did that. I talked about it in yesterday's video as far as why I pace things the way I do and the order I approach questions. So hopefully that's helpful, and now we're going to go back to 22. All right, so we got question 22 here. We see that it's obviously going to be a fairly long word problem, so let's just go ahead and get started with it. So we've got in state X, Mr. Camp's 8th grade class consisting of 26 students was surveyed, and 34.6% of the students reported they had at least 2 siblings. The average 8th grade class size is 26, and the students in the class are representative of the state students in the state's 8th grade class, and there are 1,800 8th grade classes in the state, which the following best estimates the number of 8th grade students that had fewer than 2 siblings. Okay, keep in mind we said at least 2 siblings here. Now we're talking about fewer. So what we have to do is we have to take that percentage and subtract it from 100%. So when we do that, we're going to have, since we know we're going to multiply it, we're just going to go ahead and use 1. So we're going to use 1 minus 0.346. That's going to leave us with 0.654. We take that then and we multiply it by the average class size in the state being 26. Then we take that, we multiply it by the fact that there are 1,800 8th grade classes. We do that and we're going to get 30,600. So our answer there is going to have to be answer choice C. Okay, so I'll just quick write out what math I did there. So I did 1 minus 0.346 in parentheses, multiplied it by 26, and then I multiplied it by 1,800. Okay, so our answer for 22 is going to be C. Now we can go ahead and move on to question 23. Okay, they're referring to a table. We've got a Townsend Realty Group investing in 5 different properties. The table shows amount in dollars company paid for each property and the corresponding rental price in dollars. The company charges for the property at 5 locations. Okay, so I've got purchase price in dollars, monthly rental price in dollars. I'm told the relationship between the monthly rental price and the property's purchase price in thousands of dollars. Pay attention to that. Can be represented by a linear function. What best represents the relationship? All right, in this case, these problems are a little bit difficult, okay, especially this one. This one's kind of an odd question. So what we're going to have to do here is we're just going to have to kind of find which equation here is relating them. Because these numbers are so different, all of the monthly rental prices and purchase prices are so vast and different, you've only got really a couple options. So if you're using a graphing calculator, you can put these in and find the line of best fit, but that's going to take a really long time, so I wouldn't do that. The quickest way, in my opinion, to solve this one is just to go through A through D, which sucks, but that's the only way that's the fastest way in this case. It's rarely the fastest way to do it like this, but in this case, I believe it is. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick 2 of these. In this case, let's go ahead and pick this one here since it's dealing with a small number. And then we're also going to want to pick one that's dealing with a bigger number to make sure it applies there as well. So let's go ahead and pick one like, we can do this one. So let's go ahead and do that and make sure that we find a line of best fit that works for both of those. So the way I'm going to start here is just off the bat, seeing something with negative 870, that comes off as a red flag to me. That seems like it's much different and way low. It wouldn't really make sense. So in that case, I'm not going to start with that one. I'm going to start with something that seems more reasonable. A plus 440 is also a large number to start with. So I'm just going to go ahead and start here, and then I'll go here next. So we'll start with B. So this is where we're going to start. So we got 5P plus 175. So let's go ahead and put in our purchase price of 70. That one's going to be the easiest one to deal with, so we're going to start with that. So 70 times that 5, and then adding in 165. See what that equals. Okay, that gives me 515. Okay, so that gives me 515. So that one right there, it checks off for this one. I'm going to see if it checks off for my other one, though, because if it doesn't for the other one, it can't be my answer. So this one right here, it's going to be 450 times 5, and then adding in 165. Then adding in 165. When I do that, I get 2415. Okay, so getting 2415 here, that's way off. So B has to be wrong. The next thing I said I was going to go to was D, so I'm going to quick do that one. So I've got 7.5 then. I'm going to start once again with my $70,000 place. So I got 7.5 times 7, and then I'm subtracting 10. Okay, I do that and I get 515. So that one checks off. For this box right here, I get 515. Okay, next one I'm going to check is this one down here. So that's going to be 450 times 7.5, and then I'm going to subtract 10. Okay, I do that and I get 3365. So that one checks there as well. Therefore, D is going to be my correct answer there. Okay, it checked off for 2 of them. Therefore, that's going to be my best answer for my line of best fit. So answer for 23 is going to be D. All right, now I got question 24. Townsend Realty purchased the Glenview Street property and received a 40% discount off the original price, along with an additional 20% off the discounted price for purchasing the property in cash. What best approximates the original price in dollars of the property? All right, well, we're solving for the original price. We know that the price that we paid for that Glenview apartment is going to be $140,000. So we'll go ahead and start with that. We've got $140,000 then. Okay, we got to divide it by that 0.6 because 0.6 comes from us getting that 40% discount. We got to multiply by 0.6, in this case dividing since we're going from the discount price, then also dividing by 0.8 since we got 20% off of that discount price. Okay, so we plug that in our calculator really quick. 140,000 divided by 0.8 times 0.6, and that's going to give us about 291,000. 291,000. So our answer there is going to be B. Okay, so that's 24. Answer there is going to be B. All right, number 25. Okay, I've got a psychologist set up an experiment to study the tendency of a person to select the first item when presented with a series of items. In the experiment, 300 people were presented with a set of 5 pictures in a random order. Each person was asked to choose the most appealing picture. Of the first 150 participants, 36 chose the first picture. Among the remaining 150 participants, P people chose the first picture in the set. If more than 20% of all participants chose the first picture in the set, which the following best describes the possible value of P. All right, 20% are choosing that first picture, and there are 300 participants. That total number is going to be 0.2 times 300. Okay, so I don't want to have a minus 36 or a plus 36 there, so I know A and B are going to be out of the picture. Now I look at options C and D. I know that P plus that 36, right, that's going to give me my total number, which has to be greater than my total number given by that 0.2 times 300. I also know P must be less than 150 or equal to it, since that's the number of participants. So my answer is going to have to be D for number 25. All right, number 26. Surface area of a cube is 6a over 4 squared. A is a positive constant. What gives the perimeter of one face of the cube? Okay, I know my surface area for a cube is 6 times the area of one side squared. Therefore, my area of one side is going to be a over 4. The perimeter of one face of my cube, if my area is a over 4, I know my area. I'll put that as capital A. My area is going to equal my side length times my side length. So if my area is a over 4, that's got to equal my side length squared. So solving for my side length is going to give me, or hang on a minute. Oh, my bad. Hang on, that's wrong. Okay, so we've got 6 times the area of each side. Okay, so the area of each side is what my surface area is. It's not squared. Okay, that is incorrect. It's the 6 times the area of each side. So I can go ahead and get rid of this. So I know then that since the surface area of a cube is 6 times the area of each side, I can go ahead and take that area that I know is equal to the side length squared, and I can get rid of this squared here, and then I'll have a over 4 is going to be my side length. So a over 4 is equal to my side length. Okay, I have 4 side lengths in my perimeter, so I multiply each side by 4, and I get A, so my answer is going to be B for number 26. Okay, and I'm going to quick write down a note to myself to put something as far as text that pops up to warn you that I start off incorrect on 26. So you'll see a text pop up with that, but I'm going to quick make a note. Number 26. All right, now we can go ahead and move on to 27. We've got the mean score of 8 players in a basketball game was 14.5 points. If the highest individual score is removed, the mean score of the remaining 7 players becomes 12 points. What was the highest score? Okay, first thing I'm going to do is that 7 times 12, find how many points they scored without that highest score. So without the highest score, they scored 84 points. Okay, with the highest score, that's going to be 14.5 times 8. Okay, I'll plug that in my calculator. 14.5 times 8, that's going to be 116. Okay, I do 116 minus that 84. 116 minus 84. That's going to give me whatever that last player scored. So 116 minus 84, that's going to give me 32. So the answer is going to be 32. That's how many points that 8th player scored. So the answer there is going to be C for number 27. All right, now we got question 28. Let's go down and find 28. Okay, I've got a line graph. I'm told that the graph of the linear function f is shown above. The slope of the graph in the linear function g is 4 times the slope of that of f. If the graph of g passes through this point, what's the value of g of 9? Okay, well the slope of f is going to be, I see I rise 1 as I run 2. So that's going to be a slope of 1/2. I got to multiply that by 4 to get my slope of g. So 4 times 1/2 gives me 2. Therefore, g of whatever 9 is, that's going to have to equal 2 times 9 since my slope is 2x. And then I see that I pass from the point 0 to negative 4, so my y-intercept's negative 4. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 minus 4 is 14, so my answer there is going to be answer choice C, 14. So that's question 28. Answer there is going to be C. 29. The equation above defines a circle in the xy plane. What are the coordinates of the center of the circle? Okay, coordinates of the center of the circle, I'm going to have to factor this. Okay, so I know I'm going to have an x plus 10 because x plus 10 squared is going to end up giving me 20x, a positive 20x. So I know that the formula for the center of a circle is x minus h squared. for the x coordinate. Since I have a plus 10 here, I know my x coordinate of my center is going to have to be that negative 10. I see the only option with that's B, so my answer for 29 is going to have to be B. Okay, number 30, I've got y equals x squared minus a in the equation above. A is a positive constant. In the graph of the equation, the xy plane is a parabola, which the following is an equivalent form of the equation. All right, well, I know that I have no middle term. Since there's no middle term, I got to use the rule where I have a plus and a minus. Now, in this case, a is going to be incorrect because that would end with negative a squared, okay? And that can't be correct because I only have minus a up here. So a is wrong. Next thing I'm going to look at is option B. I've got an x plus root a times x minus root a. That's going to be correct because that's just going to end up with those square roots canceling, right? Because it would be a negative root a squared. That's going to get rid of my square root, get rid of that, and I'm going to end up with negative a. So that right there would be a correct answer. So 30, correct answer there is going to have to be answer choice B. All right, so with that, we've gone through, at this point, we've answered all of our problems. So we've answered all of our problems. Let me check my stopwatch for how much time I've got. I see that I've got, I'm at 39 minutes, so that's fine. I've got 16 minutes left. I'd say that that's pretty ideal. So I've got, like I said, 16 minutes left. In my pacing video yesterday, I talked about how you want to have anywhere from 20 to 15 minutes left at the end. So at this point, what I would do is I would go through and I would just check and make sure that all of my answers in my bubble sheet match what I wrote down here. So that's what I'll do now is I'll go back to the beginning and I'll account for that time real quick by going through matching all of my answers in my bubble sheet to this. So let me go account for that time real quick. So let's go ahead and start here. And at this point, I'll go ahead and scroll through and account for that time. All right, so now I'm going to go through, check all of my answers, make sure they match what's in my test, what my test booklet has, make sure it matches what's on my bubble sheet or my answer sheet. So I've got number 1, D. I've got number 2, C. Number 3, A. Number 4, B. Number 5, C. Number 6, B. Number 7, A. Number 8, C. Number 9, B. Number 10, A. Number 11, A. Number 12, D. Number 13, D. Number 14, A. Number 15, A. Number 16, D. Number 17, D. Number 18, C. Number 19, B. Number 20, D. Number 21, A. Number 22, C. Number 23, D. Number 24, B. Number 25, D. Number 26, B. Number 27, C. Number 28, C. Number 29, B. Number 30, B. Number 31, 1,492. Number 32, 29 over 3. Number 33, 7. Number 34, 9. Number 35, 13. Number 36, 80. Number 37, 43.5. Number 38 is 6. Okay, so at that point I've gone through and I've checked all of my answers in my answer sheet or my bubble sheet, if you want to call it that, and compare them to my test booklet, make sure that they all matched up. So at this point, what I would do is I would go to any questions that I had starred if I were you. In this case, I didn't have to star any because I know all of them are correct because I just know, right? There weren't any that I had issues with. 23, I don't know why I starred that. That one I think I just starred because it was a weird question. That's why I started. I can check it. Like in this case, one thing that I could check here is I could make sure that more of these match with that equation. So in this case, since I have spare time, there's no other problems that I starred. If I were taking this like an I were you, right, and there were problems that I had starred because I wasn't sure of them, what I would do is I would go back to those ones first. So anything that you were unsure of, I'd go back to first. In this case, I'm sure of all my answers. 23 would be the only one that really I could even check anything else for. All the other ones I'm really confident. So really the only other thing I could do, since I didn't have any starred, anything I was hesitant on, which were 23, I can just check a couple more of these. The other one was 26. That was the only one that I hesitated on. So I'll check 23 and then I'll check 26 since I was a little bit hesitant on that one. And then after that, at that point, you just check pretty much going down 1 through whatever. So after you've checked all of them that you were had starred as ones you wanted to check, or any that you were hesitant on, at that point you're just checking pretty much any of them. So at that point I just go down starting at 1 and just check as many as I can. So with that, I'll just quick check a couple other ones of these for question 23. So we got 128. We'll multiply that by 7.5. So we'll take 128, multiply it by 7.5, and then we got to subtract 10. When we do that, we get 950, so that one also checks out. At that point, 3 of them have checked out of the 5. That one's going to have to be my correct answer. So at that point, I can just go down to my other one. 26 was the only other one that I was a little bit hesitant on. You saw me put that text on the screen because I mixed it up at first here. So we had the area of the surface area of a cube is 6 times a over 4 squared. Okay, I know the surface area of a cube is 6 times the area of one of its sides. I'm asked for the perimeter of one face, so I know the area of that face is going to be a over 4 squared. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, I know the area of that face is going to be a over 4 squared. So since the area is a over 4 squared, and I know the area is the side length squared, then I know that my side length has to be a over 4. So now that I know that my side length has to be a over 4, to get the perimeter of one face of the cube, I have to multiply that side length by 4 since there are 4 side lengths, and that's going to leave me with a. So 26 is definitely correct. Just check that one because I was a little hesitant on it at first. Obviously, I caught my mistake, so it's all good. So at this point, since I have nothing starred, right, nothing else I was hesitant on, I would just go back to the beginning from 1, and I would just work through checking my answers from there, right? So you could work through from 1, or you could work through from 31 to 38. If you struggle more with the free response section, you could actually check your work 31 to 38 first. I would have no problem with that. If you struggle more with the multiple choice section, go ahead and start at 1. So it's really your call on that one. I see number 1, I was asked for the greatest change in the number of 3D movies released. That's going to be from that 2010 to 2011. Obviously, that has the biggest slope, absolute value of slope, right? Keep in mind that the greatest change could have also been negative, but in this case, it was positive. So there, that's going to be correct. Next one I had, finding the definition of f, defining f. I see that if I go up by 2, I go up by 8, right? So that means my slope is going to be 8 over 2, which is 4. Only option with that is C, so that one's correct. Number 3, I'm converting from ounces to pounds. I'm told I need 2.5 ounces for each muffin. I want to make 48 muffins, so I do 2.5 times 48. Then I got to divide by 16 since there's 16 ounces in a pound. That's going to give me a 7.5, so that one's correct as well. Number 4, I've got 3 times c plus d. What I'm asked for the value of c plus d, just dividing each side by 3 there. That one's not too bad. I'm going to get 5/3. That one's checked. Number 4, I've got the weight of an object on Venus. I've told the weight of an object on Jupiter as well, based on it being on Earth. In both of those, if an object weighs 100 pounds on Earth, how much more is it going to weigh on Jupiter than Venus? Well, I'm going to take this 23, I'm going to subtract 9. That's going to leave me with 14 over 10. I multiply that 14 over 10 by 100. That's going to give me C, 140. So that one's checked as well. And keep in mind, I could be going through this a lot faster, and I could probably end up checking all 38 if I really wanted to. And you can feel free to do that. For me, this isn't a real SAT, and I'm kind of tired today, so I'm not really going to go through it and do all of that, especially because I'm really, really confident in what my answers are. Keep in mind, if this were the real SAT, I'd be booking it through these, right? I would be making sure I'm checking as much as I can. So if this were a real SAT and I wasn't really tired right now, I would just be booking it through, checking as many as I can. But I'm pretty much 100% sure that they're all right. So if I were you, right, I would go through. I'd try to finish in anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes. That way you have 20 minutes to 15 minutes to go ahead and check your work. At that point, the order I would do is first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my answer sheet, make sure that it matches what's in my test booklet. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. After that, I'm going to go back and I'm going to check any questions I starred for wanting to come back and check work on later. In this case, I didn't really have any. The only one that I semi had was the one where I had that big table, right, of all those property values. That was the only one that I semi had that I wanted to go back and check. And then the other one was the next thing after that, obviously, is checking any of them that you were just a little bit hesitant on. There was only one where I was really a little bit hesitant on it, and I went back, I checked that one, so I'm all good there. And then after that, at that point, you're just checking as many problems as you can, as long as time is left. So in that case, you'd just be starting either at 31. If you struggle more with free response, you'd start at 31, check 31 through 38. If you struggle more with multiple choice, you start at 1, and you just go down and check as many as you can. So you'd want to be moving much faster than I am now. At this point, honestly, I think I'm just going to go ahead and just keep talking about what I would recommend doing, because you don't really just want to watch me go back and check work on answers that I know are correct, because then you're not really going to learn as much. So really, I'm really just with these walkthroughs trying to give you an idea of how I pace and things like that. So with this, I've still got, looks like I've got 7.5 minutes left till I get to 55 minutes. I'm just going to kind of talk you through what I'd recommend doing, like once you're done, because it's going to be kind of pointless for me to just check my work when I know it's correct. So really what you're going to want to do, right? You finish it, you've got 20 minutes, 15 minutes left, whatever. You're going to want to just go through, match everything in your bubble sheet, then you're going through checking as many answers as you can. I already touched on that, so I've got 7 minutes left. I guess the other things I could touch on is just if you only finish with 10 minutes left, I can go through those scenarios as well right now. Let's say that you finished and you've got 10 minutes left. So if you got 10 minutes left, obviously first thing you're still doing is still matching that answer sheet. You're always going to, first thing you're going to do anytime that you finish is just going to be going through and matching your answer sheet to your bubble sheet, making sure that's correct. That's the first thing that I recommend doing when you're done with the test, or when you're done with your answering every question. So once you've done that, that's the first thing I recommend doing. That should only take about a minute or less. Okay, so you take that minute or less and you do that to make sure that you don't have any errors. Because sometimes what people will do is sometimes they'll answer 10, 12, and then answer 11, which was below 10 on accident in their bubble sheet. So that's why I recommend doing that, is to avoid those simple mistakes. You want to make sure you're getting credit for questions you're getting correct. So that's why I recommend doing that. So anytime that you finish, immediately after you finish all your questions, that's the first thing you're going to do. So let's say that you had 10 minutes left or 8 minutes left. So not as much time as the 15 or 20 that ideally I would recommend you have. At that point, what you're going to do, obviously, still going to follow the same procedure. You're going to go ahead and go back and check your work on any starred questions. After checking your work on starred questions, check your work on questions you were hesitant on, and then once again, you're doing that same thing of checking your work on either 31 through 38 if you struggle more with free response, or starting with the multiple choice and working down there. If you finish checking your work on 31 through 38, then you're going to go back and you're going to start at 1 and check your work there. So that's what I recommend you doing. In this case, I'm not going to go back through it. I'm not going to check all my work on 1 through 38, even though I probably could in 15 minutes. It's just I don't think you guys are going to get as much from that, and I'm really trying to focus on teaching you guys rather than just showing off how fast I can go through and do problems. So hopefully this was helpful. I've still got 5 minutes left. I'm just trying to think of anything else I could cover here, because tomorrow is not going to be any SAT math day, because we took the whole day today to do this. So tomorrow is going to be either a reading day or a writing day, or a combination of the two. But you are going to have a walkthrough. I'm trying to think. Today's day 53, so tomorrow would be 54. So day 55 would be the next math day, and that's the day right before the next practice test. So that day is actually just going to be me going back over how to pace these two before you take that practice test. So I'll go over how to pace the math and the math no calculator that day before it, just so that you have those down and you can implement those on the practice test. So I guess it's not going to be till day 59 where we're going to have a normal math day again. So on that day, at that point, I'm probably going to have you do, I believe I'm probably going to have you do an SAT math with calculator section on your own. I'm not totally sure yet, so don't quote me on that, but sometime in the next 14 days, you're going to be able to do another practice pacing on your own of a math practice test. So it'll be math with calculator section, and you're going to be able to implement the pacing strategies that I did. So it'll be sometime in the next 2 weeks. And you'll be able to go through, and then the next day after, you'll be able to see me go through that same one that you just went through. So that should be helpful, because you'll be able to see a couple of things. You'll be able to see what you did to solve your problems versus what I did to solve the problems. So you'll be able to see if I'm doing it more efficiently than you. So on problems, you see that a lot of times I find tricks to solve the correct answer as quickly as possible, whether that means setting up a certain ratio in a certain way, or picking certain numbers over others, or looking at my answer choices rather than following the normal procedure for solving it. So you'll be able to compare that to see if I'm doing things more efficiently than you are, and then you can adopt how I'm doing it in order to get to the correct answer faster. So you'll be able to do that. The other thing that's going to be beneficial is you're going to be able to see how you're pacing it versus how I'm pacing it. So if you're following my my pacing sort of procedure, it should be pretty similar. The only thing that really could differ is probably going to be just how quickly you're able to solve it, right? So you're probably going to end up doing the same order of questions I imagine. But what will differ is probably the speed with which you complete them. You might not be able to finish them as fast as me. Maybe you're able to finish them faster. Congrats if you are, because that's really impressive. But yeah, so you'll be able to kind of see how I'm solving them faster. So that's really the big thing there, is just understanding that if you're finishing with 10 minutes left rather than 15 or 20, just take a look at how I'm solving them faster than you are. Take a look at the steps I'm taking, or the lack of steps I'm taking, right? Finding different ways that take less steps to get to that same correct answer. That's very important. So at this point, I've got 2.5 minutes left. Hopefully this was helpful as far as just seeing how I got to my answers within 40 minutes, and having that 15 minutes left to go back then and check my work, make sure it matched my answer sheet. And then, like I said, if this were you doing the walkthrough, or if this was me taking the real SAT, at this point, I'd still be gunning through, checking all my work. When I say gunning through, that's obviously metaphorical, right? I'm not actually doing anything with guns. It was just a metaphor for me going through my practice test very, very fast. That's what I meant by that. So I meant me moving very, very quickly through my practice test to get all my correct answers. So that's really what I recommend doing, right? So if I were really taking this more serious than I am right now, I would be going through, checking all my work really, really quickly. But I don't want to do that right now because I'm tired, and there's like a minute left at this point. So hopefully that was helpful. If it was, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully it was helpful. The big thing there is just make sure that you're paying attention to how I'm pacing it, right? The order of questions I did today, I followed the same order that I outlined in that pacing video yesterday. So if you didn't watch that video, you need to make sure you go watch that one. But yeah, so I'm really just killing time till my time runs out, to be honest, at this point. So yeah. Um, As far as other things to note, as far as where we are at, so at this point we're past the halfway point, so hopefully you've seen some improvement. Now keep in mind, if you haven't seen improvement yet, you really want to be looking at this next practice test. So this one's going to be on day, I believe it's 56. You're going to want to be really looking at that one to see kind of a little bit of a jump in your math section, and hopefully your writing section as well, because we covered pacing now in the math section at that point. Not as much for the math with calculator yet, because you haven't gotten a chance to practice the pacing by the time you'll be taking this next practice test, but you should see a little bit of a jump in hopefully your math no calculator, since we covered pacing a lot on that for the past few days. So hopefully this one you kind of see that if you adopt some of those pacing tips and tricks that I've kind of taught you, hopefully you see that that kind of gives you a little bit of a boost with that next practice test that you'll be taking. So hopefully that's helpful. At this point, I've got 20 seconds left, so I'm just going to go through my general outro. So as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Any private SAT tutoring I'm doing will be linked in the description. Any private college admissions consulting I'm doing will be linked in the description. That's really it. So hopefully this was helpful. As always, make sure that you have a great day. And with that, there's 5 seconds left remaining. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm out.